Hello and welcome to episode 69 of the Mo Money Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Morehouse, and thank you for joining me for another special listener series of the podcast where I interview a listener of my podcast and they get to share their story with other listeners. And it's just kind of an awesome circle of sharing and educating each other through our experiences. So for this episode, I am interviewing David from Texas, and he is a delight. And he talks to me about how he helped get his family out of debt, and now how they don't use credit at all. They are on a cash diet, and they have been for years. And this is something I don't think I've really met anyone who's doing that successfully. And I am very excited for you to listen to his story and his fabulous Texan accent. All right, without further ado, here's our episode. Okay. So thank you, David, for joining me on the show. I hope you don't mind if we kind of jump in. I'm excited to chat with you. And thank you for reaching out to me on Twitter after listening to my first listener episode with Amanda. That was awesome. I'm so glad you reached out.
Sure. I'm glad you put the call out.
So when you tweeted me, you said that your story involves you paying $40,000 in debt in a very short amount of time, which is about 14 months.
That's correct.
That is a crazy amount of time. But before we kind of get into your story, I hear you have an accent, and a very Southern accent. Where are you from?
Houston.
Okay. I was trying to figure out, it kind of sounds like a Texas accent. Very cool.
Yeah, well, the first time I heard your podcast, I'm like, you don't exactly sound like you're from East Texas, so.
I am not.
Yeah, you're in Toronto?
I am in Toronto, yeah. But I'm originally from Vancouver, so right, I don't technically have a Toronto accent. Or maybe I have developed one, I don't know.
Well, I don't know what a Toronto accent is, but...
I have no idea. I don't think that's a thing. I think it's just there's Canada, and that's kind of one accent.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But Toronto's East Coast time, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay, so it's actually 8:35 there.
It is.
Okay.
What time is it over there?
7:35. We're in Central Time.
Oh. Ah, I see.
But yeah, Canada's obviously huge, but if you've never been to Texas, it's massive.
No, it is. No, and I absolutely want to go to Texas, actually. That's definitely on because there's so many great cities. There's Austin, there's Dallas, there's Houston.
Yeah, well,
and that's just one state.
The state is, from south to north is 800 miles, and it's the same east to west, too.
Oh my gosh!
You can be in the state and drive towards New Mexico from Houston, and you can be 17 hours and still be in Texas.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
that's crazy.
But don't come in the summer; it tends to get a little warm.
A little hot. Yeah. I'm still, it gets pretty hot in Toronto, but I don't know, again, what the comparison quite would be. But again, I'm still kind of getting used to the heat here. I'm from Vancouver on the West Coast, and it's pretty much, it's sort of similar weather to Portland, Oregon, where it's just kind of rainy and kind of the same temperature year round. Right, it's kind of nice. Yeah. So, but it gets pretty cold here in the winter, but we're still getting used to it.
Well, the benefit about being here is for the 4 out of the last 5 Christmas days, I've worn shorts on Christmas Day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know what that means. That's crazy.
But on July and August are hardest part of the year, and I don't know if y'all have this. I know y'all have chill factor.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, well, we have heat index.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we do not have that.
So for example, one little, for a week straight in the first week of August, the actual temperature was between 95 and 98, and it felt between 110 and 115.
No, that's too much.
Yeah, it's warm. Let's just put it like that.
It certainly is. So are you born and bred Texan? Have you always been there?
Yeah. We actually live... We live 2 minutes from my mom and dad's house where I grew up.
Oh, that's so nice.
So all my family's within 5 hours of me.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. So, okay. So I just needed to chat with you because I love your accent so much. So I'm glad. Thank you so much for giving me a little insight into where you're from. I wish I could say y'all, but it just doesn't kind of make it just makes sense when I say it to people here. But
Well,
I love y'all.
well, like, well, yeah, y'all works.
Y'all is the best.
And like, I mean, I don't know if I'm sure Canada gets this, but y'all like you ever watch like Duck Dynasty?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, like when they tell people, if somebody's leaving, they go, "He gone."
Yeah. We actually have a joke at my work, and we say, "Oh, she gone."
She gone.
She gone.
You gotta say it. You gotta say it like pawn. Like you can't say she gone. You gotta say she gone.
She
like,
gone.
Like a pawn. Like pawn. Like I'm gonna go pawn this. She gone. He gone.
She gone. Oh, that's the best. That's the best. Okay. So let's get into your story because I don't understand how you were able, and you're a real person. You're not some, one of these kind of, a blogger or, it's kind of the normal thing you kind of see on the news of like, oh, so-and-so, paid off this crazy amount of debt in like, such a short amount of time. You're a regular Texas man and had $40,000 of debt, and you paid it off in 14 months. Now, what was that debt, and how did you get into debt?
Well, actually, backstory. I did try to. I wrote a blog every single day for almost a year.
Oh, did you? Is it still around?
No, literally, I think I had 4 subscribers, and one of those was my mother.
Yeah, that's how you start though, right?
Well, yeah, but it was becoming a grind. Like I wasn't really enjoying it.
Yeah.
I wrote it every single day for a year, and then I switched to 2 or 3 times a week for 3 or 4 months. Still no followers. Then I switched to video, and then I switched to weekly video, and I was seeing no subscribers. It was all about personal finance and stuff. But that one's.
Well, maybe podcasting is your niche, and this is a sign, maybe.
Well,
that podcasting is your thing. It could be.
Who knows? Maybe people will like my accent. I don't know.
Oh, I think they will.
So to answer your original question, all we had was we as in me and my wife. We were married in 2008. We met in 2005 on a completely and utterly blind date.
Aww.
Like I didn't know what she looked like until the first time I saw her. So,
oh my gosh.
Now we're married and we have a 4.5-year-old son. But all our debt, we had $450 in credit card debt. I had a little bit of a trust for my granddad, a few $1,000s, not like a trust fund, babe, or anything.
Yeah.
But I had a few $1,000s, and before the wedding, I took that out and paid off what little student loan that I had. I had like $4,000 student loan, but when we got married, we had $450 on a credit card. I had stupidly traded in my Harley that I'd bought brand new that I was almost paid off with, and I was such an idiot. I walked off the dealership with a $13,500 Harley that I owed $22,000 on. Oops. And then my wife had a new car, a new Pontiac SUV. So the totals were $450 on a credit card, a single credit card, and then $19,500 on her car and $20,000 on my motorcycle.
Oh wow! Why did you buy a motorcycle?
I had one before. Like I said, down here the weather is it's basically nice year round.
Yeah.
Well, it's just hot, but it's not like it's snowing or anything down here. So that was my main mode of transportation. I had another vehicle as well that was paid off, but I rode that motorcycle every single day. And I just wanted one, and I liked. If you've never ridden one, it's awesome. But that's why I had one.
I have not. That'll probably be the last thing I do. Not because I have anything against motorcycles, but I don't even like driving a car. So.
Oh, it's totally different. It's like I don't know. It's almost like a spiritual thing. I mean, just going and I don't have any hair, but wind in your hair and you just go. It's beautiful.
Well, maybe one day. Maybe, who knows what the future holds.
Of course.
So it was the motorcycle and then your wife's car that kind of led to the big chunk of debt.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, that was $450 on a credit card.
And that's fast. Like, that's quick, It's like bam, bam, just 2 purchases and there you go.
Yeah, well, she had the car before we got married.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't really consider car debt to be bad.
Really?
Well, at that time I didn't. Now I've, which we'll get into, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
I totally feel different about that. But I was like, okay, well, I don't really have any consumer debt except my cars, but I didn't really count that because they were like vehicles. But I was like,
yeah, it's like a mode of transportation. You need it to get around.
Yeah, well, I didn't need the motorcycle. I had a car.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, that was it. We had 3 debts: credit card, a car payment, and a Harley payment. That was it.
So at what point did you kind of realize, oh, this is, we need to do something to pay these things off? We didn't realize how quickly, this kind of escalated.
Well, one day I came home. At the time I was making about, this was back in 2008. So I was making, I think $10.50 an hour, and she was making like $8-ish an hour. I mean, so not hardly anything. We had a mortgage. We had a small house that we had bought, but I just kind of sat down and I kind of made a budget, but I didn't really know what I was doing. But I just put what we had coming in versus what we had to pay. And, we had $0 in savings. And when I say zero, I literally mean zero.
Zero.
And, we had $26 at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's really the living the paycheck to paycheck kind of thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. So that was kind of the light bulb moment that
was the wake up call.
Oh yeah, because we were literally one blown tire away from not being able to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So that was the turning point. That was the light bulb moment.
Mm-hmm. And did you? I'm just curious. When you're in that situation, did you talk to any like family or friends about your situation, and what did they think?
I actually reached out to a longtime friend who was who went to our church. Mm-hmm. And I told him exactly what I just told you. Hey, we got like $26 and I don't know what we're going to do. And he told me about, he said, have you ever heard of a guy named Dave Ramsey? Mm-hmm. And I said, no, who is that? And he said, well, he's a personal finance expert and stuff. And he's on the radio, and I have an audiobook from him that I'll let you borrow if you want to hear it. And he let me borrow it. It was 7 hours long, and I listened to it twice in one day, and I was hooked.
Oh, wow.
And I was hooked.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah.
100% hooked. I drank the Kool-Aid, whatever you want to say. I was all in.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. No, I absolutely know what you're saying, because there's been a few personal finance experts that I've read their book or watched their TV show, and I'm like, yep, I'm in. Let's do this. Let's change, kind of the course of my life. And it's kind of crazy how something, one thing like that can really just switch things completely.
It made sense to me. Like it wasn't.
It was your language. You were like, I get this.
Yeah,
I can do this.
It was not. It was. A seventh grader could understand it. It wasn't like it take a PhD in economics to understand it. Mm-hmm, and exactly. It was, just do this step, 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 and then this is the result.
Exactly.
And then
just break it down.
Yeah, it was. Once I read that. And if you're familiar with this work, there's nerds and free spirits. Mm-hmm. I'm the nerd, but I'm a spending nerd whenever I want something.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. I'll save up and buy it. I don't care what it is. Mm-hmm. But my wife is the biggest free spirit literally on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we just start talking about finances, she just glazes over. But I started with how it would feel, like the why we need to get out, instead of we're going to do this, kind of pounding like a drill sergeant. So she started to come around, and once she saw the first result, she was like, okay, let's go.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's awesome. And so you stuck. So what exactly was the structure of the kind of the payment plan, or how did you do it in such a short amount of time? And did you always have the idea, I want to get this done in just over a year?
I didn't. Our goal was as fast as possible, but what we did was we did exactly what the baby steps are. I mean, to the letter. We at the time you could do this now. Now you can't, but we both had BlackBerries at the time. This is before iPhones, of course.
Yeah.
But at the time you could take your internet off your cell phone. So we cut that, which saved a little bit of money. And, once you just start paying attention to where your money's going, it feels like you get a raise.
Oh, totally.
I mean, because then it's, you all of a sudden you find out you have more money at the end of the month instead of the other way around. And we did that. And at the time, it was just me and her. We had, no animals and no child or no children, I should say. And we literally acted like the house was on fire. I mean, scorched earth. We ate for the entire month on $200.
Wow.
Total, including restaurants and going out to eat and grocery stores.
Wow.
We switched to all cash. And when I say all cash, even at the gas pumps, I'd walk up to the gas pump and give her my money. And that was my motivation because I hated doing that.
Oh, yeah. That sucks. I hate cash.
I gave blood plasma twice a week.
Wow.
I picked up extra yards to mow on the side, and every dime above our monthly income went towards whatever the smallest debt was.
Wow.
We were paying at one point on her. We actually, the first month, we went from $0. I read about the book. I heard the audiobook. Then I got the book. The first month we went from $0 in the bank to our $1,000 emergency fund to get us started. And we paid off the $450 credit card debt a week after that.
Wow. And
then after that, it was, we were paying 3 payments a month to her car. And if it was her payment, I still remember it was $456 a month. And the day before payday, I'd clean out the envelopes we had from the cash from leftover from gas or food. And if it was $12, we sent it in because we knew the reinforcements were coming the next day in the form of a paycheck.
Exactly.
And then I did the same thing. So we made her payment. And then before payday, we paid whatever we had, $12, $8, whatever we had. And we did the same thing before the next paycheck. And when we paid it off, we were 3.5 years ahead of the note.
Wow.
And then after that, I actually sold my motorcycle, my decision.
Yeah.
And it brought $13,000. I still owed $20,000. And that was the last time we've borrowed money. I had to go get a personal loan for $7,000 because I was so upside down in the motorcycle so I could get out of the motorcycle.
Yeah.
And we paid that off in 4 months. And then it was, full steam ahead. By that point, we'd got it down so well that we were paying almost $1,000 a month on her car. And we were still making, $11 or $12 an hour, maybe $13 an hour. She was making like $9.
So how much were you working? It sounds like to have that much money to pay off these debts so aggressively, you probably were quite busy.
Well, I had a lab tech job in the petrochemical industry, and it's kind of a weird schedule, but it was basically 4 days on, 4 days off. So I worked 12-hour shifts at night, and then I got 4 days off, and then another 4 nights, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., and then another 4 days off, and then 4 nights, another 4 days off, and then I took any OT I could get, and then on my days off, I would mow yards, go give blood plasma. My mom and dad and her mom and dad living close helped because if they cooked, we didn't have to.
Yeah. And
we didn't have to go out to eat, so that obviously helped. And yeah, we were literally living on probably $3,000 a month, and $1,100 of that was our mortgage.
Wow. That's amazing. That's like a true, like a really cool real life example of, anyone can afford to kind of get out of the debt that they don't think they can afford to get out of, it seems impossible. And I know lots of people that are in debt just feel like no one can relate, or it's just, they're just buried so deep they can't get out. But that's amazing that you were able to do it.
Right. Well, it's of course it's overwhelming. I mean, if you look
Absolutely.
even ours 40,000. Now 13 of that was the motorcycle, but I still sold the motorcycle and still had to pay 20 grand.
Exactly.
That's why you start, you need to get some momentum going at first, and you pay off the little ones first. So then you get some little wins under your belt. Mm-hmm. So if you have you owe Macy's or whatever $100, and you owe, a car, you owe $5,000, you don't pay off the $5,000 one first because it's going to take you longer. You immediately start with the little one, and then that gets you some forward momentum. It's like, okay, if you like you're on a diet and you get on the scale after a week of eating healthy and working out, and you've put on 6 pounds, well, you're not going to diet very often.
Exactly. If
you've lost 4 or 5 pounds or a pound, you're like, okay, and you feel good about yourself, and then you keep the momentum going. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say from your experience, and now you're happily debt free, and let's first get to this. Actually, you're happily debt free now. What are you doing to kind of maintain and make sure you don't kind of go back into the pattern of being in debt?
We made it a family rule that we don't borrow money for any reason whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And it's not negotiable.
So you don't use credit cards at all?
We don't even own a credit card.
Wow.
We haven't even once we paid off the $450 one we owned when we were getting out of debt, we cut it up and closed the account. We haven't borrowed a dime since 2008.
Oh wow.
We've paid.
Have you found any difficulty? Because I do find sometimes, if you want to purchase something, or especially to build up credit, you do need, a credit card.
Yes, technically to pay something on a credit card, yes, you do need a credit card, but
yeah. But it's like purchasing something online. Do you find any kind of, I wish I had a credit card?
No, I just use a debit card.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you can buy everything you can with a debit card. I mean, we've gone to Mexico. We've gone on cruises. We've bought 2 cars. I mean, the last 2 cars we bought, I put down $100 bills on the guy's hood and bought it. The whole process. I mean, I literally bought my car off Craigslist. It cost me $2,800. And I drove to the other side of Houston, which is gigantic, by the way.
Yeah.
I drove to the other side of Houston. It was a 30-minute drive, and we were still technically in Houston. And I drove the car for 10 minutes, and I put $2,800 bills on the guy's hood, and I bought the car, and I'm still driving it.
There you go.
Because after we got out of debt, we had our emergency fund. We've been struggling with that now because it's – whenever we get close to paying it off, something major happens and we have to drain the account. Like when our son came, we had insurance, but he came a month early, and the hospital bill was $5,500.
Oh my goodness!
So that went our half of what we had saved up. But yeah, we don't. Everything we pay for, we just save up and pay for it. Mm-hmm. We literally don't have a credit card, so it's not an option to borrow money.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, everything you can do with a credit card, you can do with a debit card, except get in debt.
Yeah.
Because you got to have the money to buy it. And that's not for everyone because, we live in a microwave culture where we want it yesterday.
Yeah.
But, back in the day, J.C. Penney was called James Cash Penney. He didn't borrow money. J.C. Penney was the last kind of retailer to even offer store credit because he hated it so much.
Wow.
And we just don't borrow money. We just made it a rule where whatever it is that we want. Now we have like blow money that we can just spend on whatever we want during the month. But if I want something that's more than what I have that month, I just wait. Mm-hmm. And then when I have the money, I just go buy it and I don't think twice about it.
Mm-hmm. And you've been doing that since 2008?
That's correct. Yeah.
Wow. And so it's clearly been, a successful strategy for you.
Yeah. Well, it's, I sleep better at night. Mm-hmm. Because like if you, for example, if you go on a vacation and you put on a credit card, the payment follows you.
Yep.
And when we go on a vacation, we just pay for it. And then we have a good time. And when the vacation's over, the bill doesn't come with it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, we just, we made it a choice that we don't borrow money. So the only reason we have a mortgage is because we didn't have $150,000 lying around.
Yeah, exactly. Who does?
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah.
I mean, we technically could have saved up and paid cash, but I'd like to have been, under 60 years old when I had $150,000 just
well, exactly.
I could go spend on a house.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just pay cash, and every 2 weeks or every week now, I go to the bank and I'll get some money out for our food and our groceries. And when we go to the grocery store, we pay with $100 bill or whatever we have, and then that's the groceries we have.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But yeah, we just when you it's like that old thing, when you that myth of Cortez or whoever it was in Mexico that said, he went onto some foreign land and he said, burn the boats because we're going home in theirs or they're going home in theirs. If you burn the boats and you don't give yourself an option, then you can't borrow money. So
yeah, no, I think that's great. This is a story I feel like that I haven't really heard a lot, because lots of people are afraid to, I'd say, and maybe even me including, because I am so used to using my credit card, but I don't know if lots of people would even think to get rid of their credit cards completely and live off cash or debit solely. So I think that's really cool that you've been able to do it for so many years.
Well, thank you. And also the FICO score is only based on your love affair with debt. Mm-hmm. That's how it's calculated. It's how much debt you've borrowed, when you've paid it back, how much more debt you've borrowed, how long you've been in debt, and new types of credit. That's how the whole score is calculated. So, for example, your credit score is not a true indicator of wealth.
Yeah. For
example, if you're going to say you're going to go rent an apartment and they're going to run your FICO score. If you have $10 million in the bank and you haven't borrowed a dime in 10 years, then your credit score is going to be 0. Mm-hmm. So they wouldn't give you an apartment, but you have enough money where you can write a check and buy the whole facility.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not a true indicator of wealth. It's just it's the keeping up with the Joneses mentality. Is that something that's in Canada, or is that just?
Oh yeah, we got the keeping up with the Joneses mentality. Yeah.
Well, the only thing with that is they're broke.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the people that have the lavish lifestyles are just
they're in debt, right?
Exactly. They're living above their means, and they're trying to press people at a stop sign they're never going to see again in their whole life.
Exactly.
Now there are some majority that, they have that money, and if you want to go see their bank account, they've got, 60 or 70 or 80 million in the bank. Mm-hmm. But that's not the norm. That's the abnormal one, because, most people, one of my favorite books is The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley. And, he did detailed research, and I mean, geez, most people walk in and you wouldn't even know them. They had, 2 dimes to rub together, and all of a sudden they're going to buy the whole facility,
Exactly.
So, we just, like my wife, she's not on the mortgage. Of course, it's half hers, but she's not on the mortgage. Mm-hmm. So right now her credit score is 0 because she hasn't borrowed a dime in 8 years. Mm-hmm. So she's what they call a ghost in the system, which the only reason I have one is because we have the mortgage.
Exactly.
And, once I get rid of the mortgage, then I won't have one either. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, do what makes sense for you. And especially if this means that you won't go back into debt, then all the power to you. That's a good decision for you. Absolutely.
Yeah. And like I said, I just, I sleep better at night, because and I used to have car payments, so I'm not judging you if you have car payments. No. I'm just saying, when I had car payments, the stress was, oh my good. Cause when you have a car payment or you owe anyone, they don't really care that, your child's sick and you just lost your job. They don't care. Mm-mm. All they want to do is be paid on time or early. Mm-hmm. And they don't really care about your, excuses.
Exactly.
So it's just freeing.
Yeah. That is financial freedom, I'd say, in its true form. And that's what I believe. I, sleep easy and I don't worry about money because I'm not in debt and I haven't been for years, and it's the best feeling ever. So
of course. And,
absolutely.
And the people that say, well, I need a credit card for emergencies. Well, if you've got 3 to 6 months of expenses in the bank, well, I mean, geez, how big of an emergency are you going to have?
Exactly.
If your house burns down, you have insurance. You ain't going to buy a new house. That's why you have insurance for. If you wreck your car, that's why you have insurance. You pay the insurance bill.
Exactly.
So I mean, I've never personally known an emergency that you had to have,
a line of credit or a credit card.
$30,000 line of credit card
to
pay for it. I mean, if you have, 15 or 20,000, whatever your, or 10,000, whatever your budget says that you should have 3 to 6 months. I mean, that would take a pretty substantial emergency in order to go above that. I mean, I couldn't think of one. So if you have the money sitting there, just use the money. That's what it's there for.
Exactly.
And then you pay 0 interest instead of whatever.
So before I kind of let you go, what is one piece of advice that you want others that may be in the same boat that you were in a few years ago? What would you like them to know?
It is possible, but you have to believe it's possible. If your heart and your head says, I'll never get out, you'll never get out. You can wander into debt, but you cannot wander out of it. You have got to be focused, and you literally have to act like it's a life or death situation because, I mean, some people, I know one person who has $80,000 of student loan debt, and they've had it for going on 15 years, and so they're still at like $85,000.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, come on. I mean, you got to get serious about it. You got to get serious. And I'd say the very first thing you have to do is you have to start with a budget. Because if you don't know where your money's going, it's going to go somewhere else. And then you're going to look up after your taxes. You're going to make, 50 or 70 or 80 or 100,000. And you're going to say, where in the world did all this money go? You won't be able to tell what you spend it on. So I would say definitely start with a budget, and you got to believe it's possible. And the last thing I would say is prayer works. So that's all I'd say.
Yeah. Well, I think that's awesome. I think that those are great things to kind of end this wonderful listener series. Thank you so much for reaching out to me on Twitter and for listening to my episode. It was a pleasure chatting with you, and I'm so glad. I feel like this is a very inspiring episode, and I'm glad that we connected.
Fantastic. I appreciate it.
And that was episode 69 with the lovely David from Texas. Wasn't he a delight? And if you want to be a guest on my special listener series of the Mo Money podcast, make sure to reach out to me. That's exactly how David got on my show. He listened to an episode, he heard my call out, he emailed me, bam, he's on my podcast. So if that sounds like something that you want to do, if you have a story that you would like to share with other listeners of the Mo Money podcast, make sure to reach out to me at jessica@jessicamorehouse.com. Very simple email, or feel free to tweet me, Facebook me, Instagram me, whatever you want to do. Get in touch. And with that, make sure to check out the show notes, of course, jessicamorehouse.com/69. I can't believe we're already at episode 69. And make sure to leave me an iTunes review if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it, and I will give you a call out, a special thank you on a future episode. So without further ado, I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to see you back